to know who is in here as part of the committee. I have noted that we invited the Department of Water and Sanitation, Amatola Water, and the beneficiaries, Makana local municipality. I know, and I've been informed, I've heard as well that Deputy Minister Mahlobo is here, and the assumption is that he is leading the delegation. So we'll allow them to introduce their team.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Chairperson, and honorable members. In my case, I'm leading the delegation on behalf of the ministry, and we want to apologize for Minister Mchunu as another commitment, Member too. And here, I'm with the officials of the department. At a technical level, they are led by DDG, responsible for water services and sanitation management, DDG Rismat Mate, and also supported by the provincial head of the Eastern Cape, Ms. Portia Makana. We have our entity, the water board, Amatola Water, who's also the implementing agent for Makana local municipality. They are led by the chairperson of the board, Ms. Pemiako, supported by another board member, Mr. Chipilika. There's also the interim CEO, Ms. Makuleni. We're all here with other senior managers. And from our side, the chair, we are ready because the matters are water and sanitation related, especially on the visit that we have conducted to say how do we resolve those issues. With those words, Mkwati, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Deputy Minister. Can we now ask the Mayor, Executive Mayor of Makana, Honorable Vaha, to as well introduce their team. I've already indicated they are beneficiaries of this. Over to you, Honorable Mayor. Is the mayor in?
Sorry, Chairperson, I don't see the mayor on the platform.
Do you see anybody from Makana?
Doesn't look so, Chairperson. I will just make a follow-up with the municipality.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
No, Chairperson, it's Councillor Ramkonga, the member of the mayoral committee. I'm within the meeting. I'm sure also my colleagues will be joining soon, Honorable Chairperson.
Yes, we have a list, honorable members of the people who are supposed to attend the meeting from Makana. They are led by the mayor, Yandi Swavaha, and a list of other MMCs, and a director in the name of Gidan, and another director. So we may not delay the meeting because of the introduction, and I think everybody would introduce him or herself when they speak. The actual subject of the meeting, as already indicated, it's a follow-up on a specific matter we wanted to be briefed about, related to the upgrading of the James Kleynhans wastewater treatment plant. There were a number of issues that were raised by members. It looks like Makana, as early as 2014, 2013, we have always been talking about water and sanitation. And at a face value, we could see money being thrown into the problem, but the problem is not getting solved. And as people whose responsibility is to do oversight, and we are not confused about who are we doing this oversight for. We are doing it on behalf of the people. We are not doing it generally. We are public representatives, and the first people we ask questions from are those in the executive. In this case would be the Minister for Cooperative, as well as the Minister for Water and Sanitation. We ask those questions on behalf of the people, and specifically people of Makana. I was also informed that there will be some representatives from the local communities in the meeting. So we'll also acknowledge them as we get a list of them. But specifically, the agenda for today is briefing on the challenges with the upgrading of the James Kleynhans wastewater treatment plant. And the briefing generally would be by Water and Sanitation, Amatola Water, as well as the last one, because there was also another project there related to roads in Makana, would be by MISA. Can I now allow Water and Sanitation, DM, to introduce the briefing and direct who is going to do what? And members will be just taking notes. Over to you, DM.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Chair Mkwati, and the members. The leadership of Makana local municipality led by Comrade Mayor, Comrade Vaha. And there is a presentation that we have circulated on behalf of the department led by the implementing agent, Amatola Water. We want to indicate, Chairperson, that the project that we are referring to, we are very ashamed as a department that there have been a number of delays, and beyond the agreement of the timelines that we had, that this project should be done, and it experienced a number of challenges because of the weaknesses of our implementing agent, which is Amatola Water. The project had to be implemented within a period of 3 years. It has taken more than that. And we did actually lose time. The issues that were deviling the implementing agent around the leadership and governance. The water board has been stabilized right now and is led by Ms. Pemiako, and well known in the water sector, including in the senior administration of government in the Republic and in local government. We are actually getting that stability because the water board will have handled these matters very differently, so that this infrastructure is in the ground and is very helpful. And as we are going to be making the presentation, we'll see that the project is back on track now. We're at a particular process, but at the very same time, there's a keen decision by the board that they will relook at an acceleration plan so that we can conclude this project, because it's around 68 to 70% completion right now. Secondly, there were issues around the finances and the financial issues around in the main. The beneficiaries at a particular point, they should have contributed, but ultimately we took the full responsibility And there's been escalation around those particular finances. And as a department, we are considering these issues. And it's our intention, Chair, that we should be in a position to ensure that it is properly funded and concluded on time. So to these communities of Makana, they should be able, under the sun, they too have their dignity restored around these services that we needed to provide. And then the last point, internally, we'll have a discussion around the issues of consequence management, but also just bringing those people that are professionals who had an opportunity to implement this project. And these contractors who don't actually perform in terms of their best of their abilities. But at this stage, I will request the chairperson of the board, this Comrade Pam, to be given a chance and her team to make the presentation. And then immediately they are done, Chair, there will be 1 or 2 words from the provincial head, Ms. Makaya, how are we supporting there to accelerate? And then the DDG responsible, DDG Mate, on some of the few issues to actually get this thing back on track and conclude. But as government, we owe our apology to that community because due to our own inadequacies, Chairperson, we denied them the right to actually have that particular service. But as the current administration and as Minister Mtun and ourselves came in last year in August after President made us as a standalone department, we have strengthened these water boards. We're also strengthening our implementation capability and support to municipalities because it is our responsibility as a custodian of water and sanitation that we deliver on this task. At this stage, we'll request that Mayor Eyako and the team allow them to have access to do the presentation that was circulated to members. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairperson.
Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, Honorable DM, colleagues in attendance, thank you very much for this opportunity. Mine is just to say, Honorable Chair, that it is this particular project and a few others of concern to us as a board. We are a board that was appointed at the end of March, and we're seized with the responsibility of stabilizing Amatola water, but also make sure that we get to the core business of the water board. And we have let me just say, we are, as the DM has indicated, concerned about the delays around this project. And we have about 2 weeks ago, we went to visit the municipality. We had board members and executives in visiting the project, went to the site, got the briefing, and we then the next day worked on what could be done in terms of ensuring that in terms of just get phase 2 back on track and accelerate and do whatever is necessary as the DM has indicated. And that is the additional 10 megaliters of water per day. We have also, through you, Honorable Chairperson, asked ourselves what could be done, because I mean we are not going to make excuses as the water board. There had been delays on our part. Decisions were not made at the right time when the contractor started underperforming. And as the Honorable Chair said, all of this affects the residents of Makana. So we would like to echo what the DM said, that we are not ourselves as a water board happy with the situation, but as the presentation will indicate, alongside other projects that we are implementing, We would like to make sure that we accelerate these and put the systems in place so that we don't find ourselves in this situation. We had been meeting, the officials had been meeting, and we had also, as the board, trying to give input in what is going to be presented today. They are meeting in the same boardroom. DM Mayor Makana is going to be presenting because we combined all of the inputs, and we thought that with inputs from both the technical side of Makana as well as Amatola Water, as well as the department. But the presentation is going to be led by Ms. Makana and assisted by Mr. Goyo, who's the executive manager responsible for planning and development and at Amatola Water. And with those few words, then, Chairperson and honorable members, let me hand over to them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, the honorable members of the committee, the Deputy Minister, the honorable the honorable political leadership at Makana, and everyone, all ladies and gentlemen. My name is Portia Makana from the Department of Water and Sanitation, the provincial head, and good morning. Without delaying and getting more to the background, I'm just trying to get to the next slide. This is just an overview of the project, and just to put it into context. And I think Chairperson, in the Chairperson's opening remarks, the Chairperson did allude to problems of Makana water services or water supply being spoken about since 2015, and there was noise and money thrown to the project. And just so that we locate this intervention in terms of addressing all of those projects, that we also are, we just look at the context that the James Kleynhans together with the other system that is within Makana are the two major supply systems at Makanda. Now, we have a VINEC system, which is the west, and the James Kleynhans at the east. Now, VINEC at the west has largely been affected and very unreliable because of drought. And this has then led to the James Kleynhans project growing from an initial intervention to what it is today. And I must also declare that there are further plans to even go further to what we have under the current approved scope. And I will get into those reasons. Now, with the two systems that are there, the east and west, the municipality has got these two interconnected, so that when there is no water, as we currently are faced with that situation, the James Kleynhans come into play. And James Kleynhans is then able to give the whole of the town water. I must say the Makanda's demand is at 18 megaliters. Now these two systems is providing that 18 megaliters. Currently, the James Kleynhans is operating at 10 megaliters per day, and VINEC is supposed to be operating, which it is not at this moment. And so there's that shortfall of 8 megaliters. It is no longer drought that makes it not to operate. It is the fixing that is currently happening, or the repairs that are on the rising main. But should the western part come, that VINEC be completed, as we speak today, the capacity of Makana can be met. But James Kleynhans, if it was not delayed, would mean that even if Vinek is off, that 20 megaliters will fulfill the 18 megaliters that is the demand of Makana. So the low-hanging fruit is really to get the Vinek system on track so that the James Kleynhans system, so that the current problem is resolved. However, James Kleynhans is delayed and it should not have been, and we would not be where we are. Just getting to the next slide. And as I said, that was the western side. The eastern side of James Kleynhans gets its water from the lower, and I think we know that, and relying more on James Kleynhans for future demand is the way to go, because we've got, as I've said, if these two
the slide is not moving. Sorry, the slide is not moving.
Okay, let me share again, Chair. Are you able to see now, Chair? Overview of current water supply, number 2.
It's just the same picture that was there before. That just
Let me
tells us.
stop sharing. I will stop sharing, Chair, and just and reload. Okay, okay. Can we move on then?
Yes, it's moving now.
Chair, do you see Makana 2? Overview
Yes, overview. We can see it now. It should be moving.
Yes. Now, as I've said, James Kleynhans is a 10 megaliter plant that is currently working, but it is pushed to actually produce 13 megaliters because of the shortages of the water supply at the current Makana. Now, without getting too much into that detail, but that movement of the upgrading the Makana to 20 megaliters is currently approved to 237 megaliters per day, and that is the project in question, Chairperson. Can we move to the next? Are you able to see, Chair? I've moved.
Yes, yes, you can see.
Yeah, I'm now at James Kleynhans, James Kleynhans background number 1.
Yes. We can see.
Okay, Chairperson, thank you. Just to give now this project, the project essentially where the department funding it started in, sorry, I'm just being supported here, Chairperson. Sorry, Chairperson, I'm just being supported by IT. Okay. I think there's a map, Chairperson. Are you able to see that? Chairperson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
There's a map on the screen. Yes, that is just summarizing, Chairperson. Yes. As I've spoken about East and West, I've got my the Vinek. Just when you see Grahamstown, there's there by Glen Meadow Dam, top right corner, James Kleynhans. Those are the two systems that are. It's just a map so that you can see visually how the layout is. And then on this one that I've said, Chairperson, the project started with the department at a point where we were looking at its weaknesses and its failures. And basically, it started with it being funded from the RBIC at a cost of 101 million. That is where we started with the project. And it is today, as I've said in my earlier slide, 237, but how do we get there? I will just get into that, Chairperson. Now, it was planned to finish that first phase in 3 years by 2018, but then in the same period, when just after it was approved, we also know that Makana was put under administration, where we have 2 administrators in that space during a period of 2014 to 2016. But during that time when they were under administration, we as a department brought in the Amatola Water Board to be able then to implement that intervention, the costing 101, as we originally planned it, and through the tripartite agreement that we had with the municipality. And as I've said, it was merely just to augment and upgrade and refurbish the existing 10 megaliters per day. But Chairperson, why did it grow? We then realized that the drought situation that has previously been experienced by Makana, that even the harvesters board that is bringing online 8 megaliters together with the 10 megaliters is very unreliable. That is now the western part. Now we need to increase the scope of James Kleynhans so that come drought or what, we have enough water to service the town and therefore to meet its daily demand. And that means it's 20, to improve it to 20 megaliters, and all associated work meant that we would be increasing the treatment plant to be able to treat and store water to and produce water to 20 megaliters per day. What this means, Chairperson, if James Kleynhans is finished and Harvesters Sport also is online, they would have 28 megaliters, which will meet their future demand. So this 20 megaliters is essentially to deal with those emergency situations of drought and also the future demand. And it's more of a long-term solution. But had it been completed by the time that it should have been, even the current challenges that we are facing on Harvesters Sport would not be felt by Makana. And then, as I've said, it's just maybe giving another angle on what, or summarizing just what was done, what was to be done under phase 1. And as we can see, it was more of a refurbishing and clearing the current plant that is there. And phase 2 would have meant you built more filters, filtration systems, and more sedimentation tanks, and all associated infrastructure to be able to treat the plant, to treat water and avail water at double the capacity of that plant. And then the last was then to say, you're now crossing the T's and dotting the I's, where you are making sure that whatever has been put in there in terms of the bulk treated water is then able to be distributed to the reservoirs that are at Makana. And for that reason, then we had phased it in that fashion. Now, as we speak, that first phase is 100% complete. And I will just unpack it later as to in a visual presentation so that you can see what Google Map is showing in terms of what you can, if you go there today, what you will see under phase 1 and also under phase 2. And this is just the schematic view of what actually is happening there. I will not go into this. I think the next part, the next will show it better. This James Kleynhans phase 1, this is what we said would be done in terms of scope. There it is in terms of pictures on the side. And that is the amount that has been spent. It costed 65, expenditure has been at 65 million. And this part of work is what has been produced. And I think a bill of quantities have been attached as additional information to the information that has been given. And this was completed in September 2019. This is what it was before the intervention, and this is the phase 1 work that has been done. As we can see from the arrows that are there, there was a 2 megaliter reservoir that, because we could only treat and pump, and when there is any, we didn't have any redundancy or any storage capacity. Now that phase 1 brought in that storage capacity based on what was treated. There were also sludge ponds that needed to be built, and those have been brought in, as well as upgrading the mechanical and electrical work that effectively, and also the connection to the existing treatment works. This was under phase 1, and it was done. And again, I can't see the headings. Now, in terms of phase 2, which is where we are currently at 82%, there's again the status. If you look at the status, that is the amount of work that has been done, and currently where we are in terms of that phase is we have spent already 93 million, and we have the contractor that has left site, but it is quantified at a later slide as to how much we have paid, and what work will still needed, and what is the costing thereof. However, to date, the project in terms of phase 1 and phase 2 have spent in the region of 163. And this is the phase 2 work that is also almost at advanced stages, as we're talking about 82, we're talking about the phase that is phase 2. And now what it meant, it meant it's replicating what you have that could deliver 10 megaliters. You replicate that to be able to deliver the 20 megaliters. So there were 2 new sedimentation tanks that were built, and associated works. As we can see on Google Map, already there's water in it. So it is that has been done. And if you look clockwise, and there's the top one, the transformers and associated work, that is also done, as well as work is currently to be completed in terms of the new filter building and filters, as well as the, the next one would be the new channel, the contact channel with associated works, as well as the storage, chemical storage area. And it is just the key components, Chairperson, without being too technical, in terms of the work that would allow this plant work optimally. And this is phase 2. And it just talks to the key elements of this and what has been done. But in general, as that master slide that I skipped earlier, but that was in black and white, here it is again the same, but it is on Google. But where we have these white blocks that seem to be labeling, that is where the work has been done, and that is where also work will be done. And I'm saying will be done, Chairperson, because the project, as we had started earlier, was that 10 megaliters during the time when the crisis hit Makana was not reliable. It was to stabilize that and bring reliability to that system. Now, phase 2 was upgrading it. Now, as we are doing phase 2, we also want to manage the risks, because what is very clear is that Makana, this will be the major relying, the source that they would rely on. And if we can manage risks based on what has happened in the past, we cannot leave the site and hope that Makana's issues are over. Because number one, the pumps, or the pump house, as I think, Chairperson, you've been to site, you will see that you would recall that the pumps are they're allocated below ground. And what has happened recently, as well as some of the few years ago, was that flooding has been experienced and when they are flooded. It means there's no pumping. It means there is a lot of intervention to dry up. Now, how do you leave it at that for to take that chance again that will take Makana off the supply? We said then as a phase 3 and as additional scope, let that risk be managed by putting in a draining pipeline so that should in the event of flooding, that can be taken off. There's now also the fencing that is built in. And I'm talking, Chairperson, now about the current plans, and that will again increase the scope, but that will only be concluded once all of that paperwork has been completed. We need to follow the Arabic framework that would say you write a motivation, you get the motivation by a structure approved, you get it approved by the accounting of all of those processes that we need to follow according to the framework. However, there are already estimates given by the engineers, but until they have been approved and clearly assessed, they are just indicative, and my next slides will also talk to those indicative figures, Chairperson. And in terms of the current phase 2, and for us, Chairperson, I need to make this very clear that phase 2 for us at this point is very important. And I think we just need to correct that typo, and I must apologize. It says phase 3 up there. This is phase 2. Phase 2 is to complete the upgrade to make sure that the 20 megaliters is there whilst we are still looking at the risks that I've spoken to. That is something or in the future, but now we need to make sure that the 20 megaliters, and I think as the chairperson of the board said, that it went to the board ourselves, we all went to Makana, and the timeframes that were given were really rejected, I would say, to be blunt, and this is then the revised timeframes that we were given. And one point that was raised very sharply is the changing of dates to say the project is going to be complete and for it to be just given another completion date. Now, this is closely monitored and this has been interrogated by the board, and this is what they can defend. Now, currently, as we speak in presenting here, a bid evaluation committee is already working on the getting a contractor to complete the current phase. Now, as we can see on the slide, many of the milestones, this is the turnaround plan that they needed to come with, and this is what it says, that currently what is outstanding is for the bid evaluation committee and adjudication to set. In fact, the chairperson has committed to Makana that end of November, she will be leading the board to actually go and introduce the winning bidder at that meeting. And everyone is working at, but whilst we're doing that, we're also looking at blind spots so that we also adhere to all of these legislative frameworks in terms of not inviting objections and stuff, where there are cooling periods that need to be observed and all of that. But with all of that built in, the chairperson will be taking the water board, the contractor, as one of the interventions. And chairperson, this is then as I've said, the phase 3 components, and the phase 3 components is what we are currently finalizing together with Amatola Water. These are just indicative. No budget has been approved yet. We are the approved budget that we're still observing is the 237, but on the engineers' estimates, there are those indicative, and until they are formalized and approved, they will remain indicative. This is a pipeline, chairperson, that I said. Once, to avoid the flooding is a major component of what we are looking for. It's a 2 kilometer pipeline that is as you see those pump stations that are below ground, that pipeline will make it that will take it away. Chairperson, this is very important for us because also as much as there's consequence management that needs to be implemented, at one point Makana was faced with a flooding pump station because an operator was offsite. When something went wrong, he was not there. Came back when the pumps were already flooded, and it has led to, we know the gift of the givers had to be brought in and others, but this is also to avoid that human factor. But as I've said, these are currently being looked at. And as much as we're saying there are risks there, Chairperson, those are the risks that are manageable. The Department of Labor is important as a authorizing department for work to commence. We have had a very good responses working together with them, and we have no doubt that they will surely assist us to even cut down what we conservatively have put down as our times. Now, Chairperson, this slide talks more about the future of just the total completion of the project and not necessarily the additional water, but we're looking at the project holistically as we are having it, Chairperson. And we also looking at the contractor in terms of the shutdown period, not shutting down over December, so that once they are there, they are taken to, they then can start pushing because it is quite urgent. Chairperson, let me also declare on this slide that, as I've said, phase 3, okay, let me first take the members through phases of this, or the first column. The first column talks about phase 1 that I've said they have been completed. Phase 1 in itself was delayed, as I've said earlier, that although completed, it delayed because there was a poor performing contractor that was terminated, and then someone else was brought into the picture, and that has been completed. So what we see in those rows is the actual expenditure that that is the contractual costs, the professional fees, the implementing agent fees, and the rest. And then phase 2, where we are currently, as I've said in my previous slide, we have spent 93 million, and that is what it was spent on in terms of high-level categories on the contractor, on the professional service, and as well as the IA fees. And then procurement currently, where we are, as I've said, birds are being looked at as we speak, is where we are going. So the last two is, as you see, is procurement and future. And procurement is what it can be estimated, as I'm saying, because until the bids are finalized and we know exactly how much the winning bidder is, that remain the engineer's estimate, as well as phase 3, until the motivations, the paperwork, let me just say, until all paperwork and approvals are complete, this is where we are going. And phase 3 is largely to make sure that when we leave the James Kleynhans, we do not go and turn back and turn currently a blind eye on the current challenges. This is just a program of phase 2. As I've said, phase 2, the major priority now is to make sure that this 10 megaliter, if you count from line 4, from the bottom, the blue bar is where we say by June, that should be in place. I know Makana and the board has had a quick discussion around this one. Even Easter, can Easter be better? And we know we said June, but we are hoping that we could buy time in terms of if you move up from that, just below, above the 10 mega, builders shut down. We negotiate with the incoming contractor that they also move faster. Going up again, the work permit from Department of Labor. We have had an instance where it took a week. You apply and you provide all documentation. In a week's time, you can get that permit. We've provided conservative timeframes so that we are able then not to be unrealistic and come back to explain why the time frames have not been met. And I'm not going to go to each and every line, Chairperson. I think it's very important that we, as we speak there, we're having our bidders currently being evaluated, and we're hoping that by end of this week we will be able to have the bid committee report or sitting in terms of that process. And to cut it short, Chairperson, in conclusion, the project is currently on hold, but as I've said, the bid is currently being evaluated. And I must stress, Chairperson, that we terminated in June, and it is today of November, 1st November, we're talking about evaluating. I must say there was a process where upon, this is the last slide, by the way, when we terminated, there was a tender that went out, and there were unresponsive bids because the specifications were not all met. And looking and avoiding irregularities and the rest, the route was just to make sure that you go out again and make sure that you stick to evaluation and adjudication committee timeframes and make sure that you buy time in that. And also, Chairperson, that the water should be available additional during 2023, and also maybe earlier if we get buy-in from the incoming contractor to also maybe not close, maybe just close for Christmas and New Year that week, and that will be worked on. And then Amatola water. During the meeting as well, as said, we know that there's this current challenge as we speak, and if James Kleynhans was on board, we would be not be meeting and be frustrated. We are offering support to Makana to also support technically on the upgrade, on the refurbishment, not refurbishment, the fixing of the rising main from the eastern, because there is water to be able to treat, but we also can work together with Makana to make sure that 8 megaliters and the current 10 megaliters are always online until we finish this James Kleynhans. Also, tankers have been given there to support in terms of those high-lying areas that are not there, Chairperson. And I think also one of the major delays terminated in June was also, trying not to terminate, but try to look at put the contractor on terms and all of that. It has happened. Turnaround plans were given and they worked for a short while until we decided to terminate in June, and now hoping to appoint by end of this month, and the project will take 8 months to get additional water. But it doesn't mean the project is totally complete, because there's other snags that need to be corrected and managing the risk that is there upon subject to approval, Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson, and I think that is the end of the input, and I think I don't see my colleagues showing any issue that has been left out.
No, it's fine. The DDG will come and push after this.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, DM.
Yeah, thank
Through you, mqwathi sicela uDDG uMatha ashigame elilodwa bese ke sibuyisela back inkambo kwena baba.
Okay.
Thank you, DM. Thank you, Chair. The few issues I just want to emphasize, Chair, is that if you look at the amount of time that has actually been spent between termination of the initial contract to appointing the new one and the delays, we basically lost about a year. And as the department, one of the issues that we have identified as a gap was that sometimes when it comes to being like enforcing some of these procurement prescripts, especially with your CIDB. There are a lot of requirements that you need to ensure that you have played your role and have given a bit of a chance to the contractor to get their acts together. This is meant to avoid some of the litigations where contractors will come back and say, we're never given a chance to prove ourselves and this and that. But those are some of the challenges that actually affected the project. And the cancellation for the first tender also had an impact on the delay on the current project, Chair. But one thing that I also want to emphasize is that when we were going through the whole presentation, specifically with the you might have seen in the presentation, this was supposed to basically go on until late November or so next year, end of November next year. But this phase has actually been compressed to end of June. So this is the more accelerated program to ensure that at least the project gets finalized. And we must also register, Chair, that as a department from our level, we are closer to the works now, as the DM has mentioned, ring fencing and supporting the water board in accelerating the project. And this is one of the priority projects which, even from the DDG level, I'm monitoring. Are met, and that phase 2, phase 3 rather, gets unlocked much more quicker. We are of the view that by the end of November, we need to have at least finalized all the paperwork, all the documentation, so that at least the phase 3 is also unlocked. Those are some of the few issues that I needed to clarify. And going forward, Chair, we as a department, there are changes that we are working on to ensure that when we intervene in some of these municipalities, our current implementation model has been seen to be having gaps. It actually seems to work against what the department ought to achieve. But we are working in a model where when we intervene in an area, we should be able to bring also along professional services so that we ring fence that risk of delays in design and procurement. As the department, we are also, we have just finalized our procurement strategy, which will in the long run help us accelerate some of this project where there are delays in procurement, delays in design for projects, so that as a department, we take comprehensive and full ownership when we intervene in these areas, and also assisting our water boards as we are trying to restructure and have them more capacitated. So those are the few issues that I felt I should also highlight on the project, Chair. And thank you.
Very much. At DM, we will just take a brief briefing now by MISA on the CBD roads in Makana. I would also appeal to the gentleman who is going to present on behalf of COGTA to focus on the roads. At least we know the other programs they have, just to tell us about what we observed there and what are they doing about it. Over to you, Mr. Mbindwa. I might pronounce your name wrongly. Mr. Zimbwa.
You are correct, Honorable Chair. It's Zimbwa. First name is Alan. I am a DDG. Yes, Honorable Chair.
Yes.
Greetings to you, Honorable Chair, and greetings to the honorable members. Greetings to the Honorable DM from DWS and the leadership, as well as Makana local municipality, and to the colleagues. Thank you very much. Chair, may I request Mr. Shike to just flight the presentation from his side. Are you able to assist me, Mr. Shike? While he's doing that, I also want to indicate, Chair, as you were introducing us, you did not include the team that I see on the call. I see the acting DDG, Mr. Mohale from Paul Mohale from DCOC, as well as the team from the ministry who are also on the call. Mr. Shike, are you able to flight the presentation? Please indicate. We will focus as you indicated, Honorable Chair, on the roads. We had included a few other areas of support. As you know, as MISA, we provide technical support to municipalities, and in this case to Makana, but we also build capacity. And in this particular case, as per your guidance, we are zooming into the roads. We, as MISA, we implemented a roads project. Please share the presentation, Mr. Shike. We implemented a roads project in Makanda, in the Central Business District, and we focused on 4 roads because of the limitation of the budget. And these roads were High Street. Thank you very much. The presentation is shared. I will rush right to the end where you have requested, Honorable Chair. I was already talking about this particular project. As you can see on the screen, the table, it just shows the project pertinent details. And the second column, it's the 4 streets, which is High Street, Hill Street, New Street, and Somerset Street. They are quite other streets that we did not pave, which also need attention. I was there last week, Honorable Chair and Honorable members. They also need work outside these 4. Of just over 17 million on 3rd column. And our project boundaries, we started 17th of May 2020 to the 30th of March 2022. The 30th of March 2022 is when we signed off. The project itself, however, it was open to traffic from November. What in the contract terms, we call it practical completion. But when that practical completion is reached, when traffic is opened, there are always small things you check. We call that a snake list that we request the contractor to do. And then we sign off to say the project is complete. We checked the quality, the tests were done. They must provide assurance in form of all the documentation, and the professional team responsible signs off. Now from that 30 March, we start a period which we call a defects liability period, wherein any defect that arises because of the poor workmanship, the contractor must come back and fix at his or her own cost. That is a year from the finish time. So from 30 March 2022 to 30 March 2023, we are in that defects liability period. And the second last column is just the progress, wherein we are showing the expenditure out of that initial budget that to date, we still have a balance of just over 1.6 million. It's retention money. In other words, it's money that we keep for use during this time, should there be any defects that may arise, and the contractor must fix, because it's some kind of an insurance, some kind of a guarantee in case the contractor is no longer available. You use the money with other resources. Then the last column, it's just comments where we are saying, Honorable Chair and Honorable members, the project is complete, but only in terms of the scope, these 4. And this scope, it was in the main, Honorable Chair, we were just removing the surfacing. We call it milling that tar that is there to save costs instead of bringing new. So we milled the surfacing. The project did not involve a lot of work in, for example, the work under the surfacing. We were doing tests to check if below that surfacing, those layer works, they are called pavement layers, were they still sound, were they still fine, and the tests indicated that they were still fine, and the scope was to do the milling in areas where the underlying pavement layers before we did the surfacing. So the project is now open to traffic. We are just also showing that we did quite a number of square meters, because if you look at 4 streets, one may wonder if it was value for money, but it was 5,000 square meters with areas where we fixed the base, just the layer below what we see, what we ride on. And we also, during this construction, there were some socioeconomic indicators, some job opportunities. We could have done more, but because of the nature of the work, it's highly mechanical, because it's removing the surfacing, milling it, and relaying. We did not create as many jobs as we should have wanted. So we only created 41 job opportunities, and we have the breakdown there, 23 youths and also 1 person with disability. And of course, the city, because of this new look, it has improved the business confidence. And we believe that even the perception is also improved, but as I indicated, the other streets within the city still needs attention. Now, what we have, following your oversight visit, Honorable Chair and the members, you did see areas of localized distress in 2 streets, Hill Street as well as Somerset. Now, if I may start with Hill Street, that's the one we focused on. What happened was that Makana themselves, they requested a professional service provider they had appointed to do an opinion report. And indeed, they did that. There was a site inspection done on the 26th of September. And following that site inspection, we are just indicating at the bottom part of this slide that the MISA CEO took the matter very seriously, and he went down on the 4th of October to see for himself. And that professional team, they then provided a report on the 10th of October, highlighting their opinion of what might have caused that localized distress. And I'm stressing that it's localized, Honorable Chair and members, because that the defects, it's not on all the 4 streets, the 5,000 square meters. It's localized. In Hill Street, it's about 100 meters. And in that report, it shows that it's in the area near the median, the center. Now, on the inspection date of the 26th, which is also included in the report, the professional team confirmed that the manager for water confirmed there is a high possibility that the water line may have caused the water to leak, and as a result, the underlying areas resulted in the pavement layers or the layers before the surface to be weak, leading to the failure of the surface. In the report, the professional team is absolving the contractor of poor workmanship. They even indicated that on also the records, the tests were sound, and therefore we cannot use the retention as I indicated earlier. However, when the MISA CEO visited, he made a commitment that MISA, because of the work we do, the mandate we have, and also seeing that we had done this work and we are aware the municipality had not budgeted any funding, we then committed to do the repairs, and we did approve the funding. We have now started the process of appointing contractor because it's government process. If it was the poor workmanship, the same service provider would have done the works. So our intention, Honorable Chair, is that by mid-November, we are having a contractor on site, and by mid-December, we fix Hill Street. The second area, Somerset, the report, the inspection was done, and indeed in Somerset Street, it was discovered that there was a pipe water-based, and the pipe water-based resulted in water going into the pavement layers, into the road, and caused the failure, that localized failure at Somerset. When I was in Makana last week, I met with the roads manager and the director. They indicated that they had already started with the procurement process to purchase the materials to fix Somerset. So MISA is not attending to that part. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. The slide is back. We were just showing that at the bottom, we are now in our procurement process that we intend to finish on the 10th and complete the works by mid-December. Thank you very much, Chair. That is the main. But going forward, Chair, we are also supporting Makana. We had planned to put some funding aside to prepare operation and maintenance plan for different areas. In the report that we have, you will see that we'd already done some work on electrical. We intended to do operation and maintenance plans for water services as well as roads. And because of our funding, we had reported that our surplus had not been approved. We have now brought it forward to next financial year. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. We now have come to the end of the presentations, but I think when we started, we noted that the mayor was not in. I can see in the charts the mayor has joined, as well as the executive mayor of Sarah Bartman District Municipality. You are all welcome, Councillor DeFos and Councillor Vaha. You are all welcome, as well as the other MMCs who also indicated that they are part of the meeting. So in other words, I assume you didn't miss anything. Now it's the turn of the, maybe I should allow the two mayors, if there's anything you would want to say before we engage with the presentation. I start with you, Honorable DeFos. Honorable DeFos.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Let me humbly apologize for having joined the meeting late. There was an NPOP session which I have to join, but when I joined, they said it has been cancelled. I don't have to attend. That's why I joined late. My humble apology. Chairperson, no, I did catch some of the presentation from the previous one. All that I want to say, Chairperson, and I've raised this with the minister also, especially when it comes to Amatola and the project in Makana. We all know the history of that project. It's coming for a long time. The unfortunate part, Chairperson, is communities don't know Amatola. When they don't have water, they say it. They say even when you are explaining the issues raised by Amatola in the delays of that project. But asivoteli Amatola, sivota nina, sifuna manzi. That's how they express themselves. When they march to the mayor's house, they march to councillor's house. They don't even go to the municipal administration. So we have been calling for the department and told the department, Sarah Bartman is very capable of implementing some of these projects. I don't want to go beyond the project which is explained here, but there's a general challenge with other projects handled by Amatola in our other municipalities in the district. You may go to the history of when those projects were starting and where they are today. I want our request as Sarah Bartman District is that we are capable and we have proven it to implement these projects. And the history, and we can go into our history of what projects and to what amounts of projects we have implemented. We really would want it to be considered by the Department of Water Affairs and Sanitation. We submitted a request to them to be an implementing agent for our big projects. We are awaiting, there's progress there, and we want to thank the department. But I must just highlight, Chairperson, the pressure which is placed on poor councillors when these projects are not finalized, and that they are the ones who stand in front of communities. And communities don't want to hear these explanations. It's our only concern. And this project, the finalization date has continuously been postponed and postponed. In the meantime, there's severe pressure on councillors and the municipality by communities for this thing. There are days when the communities are without water in Makana, but I just want to raise that this project must be finalized. It really must be finalized because it is not fair towards the community, and the fact that the municipality must take the blame and the councillors for all these delays. I want to thank the MISA for the roads project. It is very good. The project was very good in Makana. The district always tried to assist and support where it can. We would really want to plead if we can't get some more money. If you drive through Makana, especially in the location areas, MEC, I wish you can make a turn and drive through. I know you may have do that when you came with your committee to that area. We need some more support for Makana, especially when it comes to upgrading the roads in our communities and in the locations. That's my only comments for now. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Councillor Vaha.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and leadership, everyone. Chair,
Yes.
Let me start by apologizing for joining late. I have joined with my council speaker. We are in one gadget. We were struggling with the connection. Chair, indeed, on the 21st of October, we had a meeting with the board of Amatola, where the presentation was made on the turnaround strategy, and we raised our dissatisfaction. In reality, Chair, is that currently the issue of provision of water to communities has gone back to square one. Now it's 1 day on and 2 days off. 1 day on and 2 days off, and that is not an acceptable situation. However, Chair, with what they have, in fact, with what we have agreed upon after rejecting what they presented, I would say we are comfortable, which is what was presented by Ms. Portia earlier on. We are comfortable with it because we cannot, there's nothing we can do to change the current situation. Now, project is at standstill and there's no work being done. So we are happy with even the fast tracking of the processes from the side of Amatola in ensuring that they appoint a contractor that will be able to move us forward, hoping that by December, at least there will be some improvement in terms of water provision to the communities. But as we speak, we're in a bad situation. And the unfortunate thing is that our communities, they don't understand, or they know nothing about the tripartite agreement and all that. To them, it's the Makana municipality that is failing them. So, Chair, all in all, Usis Pam is correct that the chairperson of the board of Amatola, we met and we agreed after rejecting the one they came with the presentation, we agreed on the turnaround they have proposed, and the fact that by November, towards the end of November, she'll be coming to Makana to introduce a contractor. Chair, on MISA, fortunately, the oversight committee was there in Makana, and we took you to the areas. Even when the CEO visited in Makana, we took him to those sites. I'm not sure when they say it's not a poor workmanship. However, Chair, I will not enter into that. You know what you saw and also what we saw, but what we appreciate is the fact that MISA is committing to come back and fix and attend to those areas that needs to be attended to. Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, indeed, the state of our roads is very bad. But I think for now, the meeting is for James and also the CBD streets that were done by MISA, but we'll appreciate if we can be assisted further. And also would like to thank the Oversight Committee for getting back to us and the stakeholders of Makana when we on these issues that are putting our communities at standstill and at ransom. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. We are now, honorable members, turning to you. You have been taking notes and listening. And so I'll take your hands now as I see them. I see Honorable Mpumza. For now, yes, I see that hand. Honorable Mpumza, can we get your question? Comment?
Thanks. Good morning to Chair, honorable members, Deep Matlobo, Chair of the board, and all the mayors, and then all the senior officials of the department, and both COCTA and DWS Amatola. Chair, let's welcome the presentation. Yes, Chair, the presentation is totally different from what we were reported to during the oversight into Makana. First and foremost, Chair, the DM Bapela is addressing you as the Majesty. We didn't know you that you are a Majesty. Perhaps, and at the same time, the DM is apologizing for this whole year, the project having stalled and the department not moving. But what would be important, my question now to DM and the chair of the Amatola board, is that the apology that they are rendering to this portfolio committee, it would be first important that if this apology they have actually rendered to the community of Makana municipality. And if they have not done that yet, perhaps it would be important that the department and the Matola Water must go and make that apology to the community for this delayed Kleynhans project. Chair, in the presentation, because when we're in the oversight in Amatola, we didn't only go to the water treatment works. In the presentation, I don't see, because we were presented and we visited that also the sewer treatment works whose effluent is just leaking down into the river. And that sewer treatment works, we were told, it's a useful value at long expired. Now I would like to understand whether this presentation, is it by mistake that there is nothing around the sewer treatment works? And if perhaps they focus on this, will they still present to us a turnaround also to the sewer treatment works? The other one shows that Ms. Makana, when making a presentation and some particularly on phase 3, she is telling us that this is merely indicative timelines. On that slide on phase 3 is indicating on that this is really indicative. My question now, when will this be formalized? Then it throws a spanner in that the program timeline that they had presented that by June, they will be complete this project. Yet on the other side, we're getting that phase 3 what is actually what is presented here is indicative, has not yet been formalized yet. Then how practical is it possible that indeed by June, the upgrade of the Kleynhans treatment works would have been completed? Chair, we must indicate that indeed these timelines of almost a year is very unfortunate. While communities are struggling where they go 2 or 3 days without water. And we experienced that ourselves. When we wanted to relieve ourselves, we went into the municipality, there was no water. And I remember some of those people who were going into the church. And then they remarked that, oh, are these members of parliament? Also, they didn't have chance to, but there is no water. That thing is shocking, Chair. I think a sense of urgency, Honorable DM, a sense of urgency on this matter is very required. And indeed, we would have to drive this contractor to ensure that people are being provided with the services. The other clarity question says that Ms. Makana was indicating, was it VINEC, where they say that the scope of work, why it had to be, that is revised up to 237.6 million, was a result of the question of a disaster and in trying to ensure that the 8 megaliters from the VINEC water supply, it should be taken on. I need clarity on that. That was it to provide this 28 megaliter? That's why they revised the scope of, as well as to address the issue of this 8 megaliter from the other side of the west side of the city. Thanks, Chair.
Okay.
Oh, thank you very much, Chair. I was not part of the oversight visit to Makana myself. My senior was part of that, but however, having received the presentations, I will go through, Chairperson, some of the issues which I think that are of importance. Very briefly, Chair, on Water Board, they are indicating some shortfalls in terms of the implementation of water and so forth. And Chairperson, Amatola Water Board and the Department of Water and Sanitation and the contractor called Mamlambo Construction had stalled the work to upgrade the Kleynhans water treatment from 10 to 20 megaliters, which has been in progress since 2016. In your view, just tell us as a committee who should be held liable for the stalling of the project between the political leaders and the administration of implementing the project successfully. Is the community aware of the shortfalls in terms of what you have reported here? Because our worry is such that, Chair, some issues relating to details of monies that are spent are not clear in terms of the breakdown here, and are brought to a low silent political issues, in which officials and people that are reporting here would come as experts and move the community away in terms of raising those issues to high silent political issues, because they are entailed in your IDP, Chair. And I can read that draft IDP of Makana in terms of what it says, Chair. But I don't want to waste time about it. But I just want to say that is there communication with the citizens regarding the plans to address water shortages? Was there what communication was there? The second one, Chair, would relate to the halted construction work due to liquidation of companies that are not able to pay subcontractors. How do we know for a fact that the completion deadline will be met by a company that has failed to its ability to pay subcontractors? How are we going to get around this? Can the presenters furnish us with details in terms of how do we know for sure what is portfolio of evidence in terms of what should constitute a company? Do you do your investigation of the capability of a company to meet its deadlines or to implement based on the track record, or do you just do it as the company is employed? I just want to get it as you go. Do you do it as you go? And if you do it as you go, and you get the findings, what becomes the course of action in terms of short? Because I believe, Chair, in any project, there is what is called a project cycle. And in that project cycle, there is a project manager who actually reports to the client, right? And then in each project, meaning that if you have a foundation, you report. If you have moved towards the window, you report, and such, and so on and so on. And we don't get that particular reporting mechanism, as it were, within the projects, and which would then perhaps stop this thing of halted construction work and all those things, you know. And what were the terms of reference in terms of these contracts that have stopped and reported now that they are ongoing? And then on the issue of Amatola, Chair, there's reports that 160 million had been spent from original budgets. So with the 77 million balance for the project to complete, and then Amatola during the presentation says that there is a shortfall approximate of 175 to complete the project. Can we get which one must we take on this? Because I'm quite confused, Chair. And then, Chair, there is an issue of the SIU, which was due to be investigated, to table the investigated report on the escalation in project costs. The portfolio is said to have committed to follow up with SCOPA regarding the SIU investigation and the tabling of the investigation report. The SIU report, Chair, should be able to provide us with the details of who and how and when, in terms of of what prompted the escalation in project costs. So I would request that we get that report, we get who, we get how, we get when, and so that we get the consequences management, and then we get who is liable for the escalation of the cost and so forth as a committee. And that's the issue for another day. Then, Chair, in terms of water, they are talking about being ashamed and all those things. I think it was the DM who spoke about being ashamed of the projects that are not quite completed. The white paper on basic household sanitation, Chair, estimates 18 million South Africans and 3 million households do not have access to adequate sanitation facilities. Those who have inadequate sanitation may be using the bucket system. So to what extent has Makana municipality, because there is a report that says that Makana should have reached their targets in terms of the bucket system by 2006. Where are we now? It's 2022 later. So we are not receiving, because, Chair, there are manifestations of this thing, of not getting a healthy environment. And the World Health Organization is clear, and UNICEF on these matters. Or there are many manifestations of negative effects on poor sanitation that that policy should aim to alleviate. And then there's health problems associated with poor sanitation. I won't go in details, they know them. Environment impacts of poor sanitation. Therein is capacity of service providers to manage the system. Depth to groundwater and soil type, the typhoid, the bilharzia, the malaria, and all those things. So to what extent have they addressed the issues of the environment, and in terms of there in the spirit of cooperative governance, what have they put in place? Water and sanitation department, cooperative governance, and together with the environment affairs to deal decisively with it, because we are at 2006, the targets are not reached. We are in 2022, we are still talking about unfinished things here in the committee. And we don't know where the community, sorry, Chair, of where is it in terms of the reporting, because I think that whatever you are doing, for me, in my most stupid perception, is that whenever something is done, the community is capable they need to be closely involved in the planning, in the conceptualization of those. They need to be taken through, so that you do not have things like protest, Chair. You can take those, because the communities, you have not put those issues at low silent level, while they are at high silent level in terms of the IDP. But that's what then entails there. But in terms of MISA, they are saying, Chair, the project rehabilitation and maintenance of Somerset Hill high and new streets. And then they state that the amount to the tune of 17,830,489.67. Any breakdown of how the budget was spent, MISA? Also, you are saying that there is 41 jobs opportunities created, 22 females, well and good, 23 for youth, very well, 1 for persons with disabilities, very good. But would you like to also inform us where are those people right now? In terms of, do you know or do you care where they are? Because you are reporting them as in during that project. And then in the post project, because I learn about post evaluation in terms of project. I just want to get a sense as to what is the status now. And then yes, that's that for now, Chairperson. Now let me allow other members to ask questions. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. I think for now, those are the questions, except on the chat, there's, my name is Ayanda Kota. Indeed, the department has failed to play oversight. Oversight role. Department of Water and Sanitation must shoulder the blame. Then there's another one here. Could we get a detailed breakdown of the operational assistance being offered to Makana to deal with the breakdown of the rising pipeline between Owison's Port and the Vinek water treatment works? I'm sure those are the critical stakeholders who are also monitoring. And when they are there, they should speak for themselves. But critically, DM, I think that's what the members for now have raised. Team to attempt to respond to some of them. Otherwise, this one of the SIU is something that we are following up on, because it was a question raised with us on this project of James Kleynhans, that the scoper came before us there to conduct oversight. The assumption is that, of course, when they do so, they also interacted with the department and possible Amatola water. But we are following up on that one. We have not as yet received a response from them when we raised the question with them. Thank you very much. Over to you, DM and Tim.
No, thank you very much, Kwate and other honorable members. At this stage, I'm going to request that our technical teams, the acting CEO that side of Amatola as an implementing agent, or the executive manager responsible, and Portia, Ms. Makana respond. And then the DTG will come in, and then the chair of the board, then I'll conclude on our side. If Portia and the team there can respond specifically on these issues that have been raised by honorable members. But there are those that, Honorable Mayor, that belongs to you as a water services authority, that the municipality will deal with those, Comrade Baham and Comrade DeForce. But at this stage, Portia, the team, please respond, especially Amatola, and then the DTG, then the chair of the board will come in spam, and then I'll come there and conclude on my part. Thank you.
Thank you, DM, and thank you, honorable members. In terms of the comments, I think many are comments and some are questions to both Department Amatola and Makana. The departmental ones on the Sarah Partman being an implementing agent, we are exchanging information on them becoming an implementing agent to satisfy the requirements of the PFMA for them to be considered as implementing agents. However, we are also looking at where there are low-hanging fruits currently, where some projects, for instance, the Ndlambe bulk water supply, we are appointing Ndlambe to actually implement that project where we have seen immediate capabilities. But in some municipalities where we are not so sure, like your Kokama, to really hand over, this would be covered by when we conclude the process of that. So the Honorable Mayor of Sarah Partman, that is getting attention, and we are in contact with the officials. We are looking at that together with Amatola Water. And I think the Honorable Executive Mayor from Makana did actually, just comment on what reflect on what the discussions were, the fact that the initial presentation was rejected and new timeframes been presented again. And I think Makana will talk to the Belmont, I think the sewer raised by Uta Dumpumza. I think that was raised directly with Makana, and it has not necessarily formed part of the request made to DWS. And then the phase 3, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, those deliverables are highlighted in the slides that we presented. And we did say that the time frame that we're talking about in the Gantt chart is in the chart, that has specific time frames that talks to phase 2. And phase 2 is about doubling the capacity from 10 to 20 megaliters. And that is the one that we are really pushing, because what is needed more than all other cosmetic issues to complete the project is to get the additional water and be able to distribute it. And that has been timed for June. And so we implementing this project in phases. We have phase 1 that is complete. We have phase 2 that is 82%, which we're saying that its first deliverable will be as additional water in June, and it be concluded as part of the other associated infrastructure not later than December. But December will be, as I've said, crossing the T's and dotting the I's. Additional water should be available by June. And I think that is where our focus and everything and efforts are. Phase 3, as we're saying, it's managing the future risk, that given that the plant will be there and finished, there is a risk of flooding. Should flooding happen, will we then come back and be subjected to that same process as the community of Makana, or subjecting the community of Makana to that risk? It's managing a future risk, that of ensure there's a draining system, because if you know the plant, you've been to the plant, honorable members, you will know that the pumps are below ground. and you need to pump it out when it's flooded. Now, instead of pumping out and look for industrial fans and go and fix motors and stuff, rather have a drainage system that will avoid that flooding. And but that is in the future. And as we said in that table, the future is what is being termed as phase 3. And it's going to be a parallel process. As we're saying currently, if you look at the other slides, it says that the technical committees that will approve this solution and this intervention of phase 3 already have said, and already we are working towards getting that concluded and approved, so that once we're concluding on phase 2, processes and planning is advanced in phase 3. So that in itself will then be the following phase. But primary for us now is to get phase 2 completed. And that is the one that the mayor or executive mayor of Makana and the chairperson, and I think Councillor De Vos, the executive mayor of Telepartman, we're really talking to Uguti, the challenges. It needs to be managed, the current challenges. Now, there was also a question around the VINEC, which led, is it the VINEC disaster that has led to the increased scope of Kleynhans as well as the additional funding? Yes, VINEC has got a different source of water, which is settlers and other small dams that do not really get much rain, and they are currently faced by the impact of drought. At some point, that system gets dry and the plant is not operating. Now, there is the Kleynhans one, which gets its water from the Orange River. Now, that one is much more reliable, and that is why it is better to increase its capacity to meet the current and future demand of Makana. And that is what is happening. And it needed to be considered. Since we have this source that is not likely to dry, let's rather upgrade it. And it increased the scope from and work and cost from 101 up to the 237 that we're talking to. And that is phase 2. And there was also an issue of is the community aware of this shortfall? I think this matter was discussed with the executive and honorable members of Makana when the board visited them, and issues of engaging and communicating with Makana will be agreed upon, and dates with the Makana leadership, as well as, because we also don't want to go and say something different, going together with the leadership and we see the advice of saying an apology should be part of that process of engaging communities, once creating the awareness. And now the issue is, the other issue is the communities being aware of the shortfalls that we're talking to, and communication has been raised as a key issue. And Mamlambo is no longer on site and have left. And the question has been, do we really look at the capabilities of these contractors when we are appointing them? And or do we, Mamlambo, if you look at the track record, and we were actually whispering amongst each other, Ukuti, actually, they have the best track record. They actually took over from phase 1 and completed that project. And until COVID hit and other challenges, that is when they were hardly hit financially, but capabilities are there, but the financial muscle is what has actually been killing them. And it is about that has led to them being discontinued. The contracts currently that are under evaluation, that is an element, looking at the financial muscle and the CIDB gradings of these contractors, whether they are at a level that will be able to withstand the financial demands on the project. And there was also an issue that the balance of the issue that needed to be clarified. At one point, we're talking about 175. At one point, we're talking about the 237 and the 160, which has been spent against it. And I think additional information has been provided that gives the breakdown on the 160. And it was sent to the Secretariat, but it is also, we can flag it quickly, but it is there for each and every aspect that has been, we have broken down the 160 and did say what it is for and what it has covered. And so therefore there is a clear accountability, as the Google Maps have shown. Physically, you are able to point where it has gone, and also in terms of paper, you are able to find. And this was sent as just additional information, and I think it has been forwarded to the members, but it is accounted for. As you can see the slide just in front of me, it said additional information, and there is additional information that has been sent, and it all talked to the two, phase one, the 70, as well as phase two, the 92, can be rounded up to 93, but it is all there. It is quantified, and therefore the 175, as I've said, if we looked at the table that I had spoken to earlier and presented, this table, it talks to the phase 3 and some work that has been, some work that needs to be concluded under phase 2. As I have said, if you look at the slide, phase 2 and phase 3 at the bottom are those that are under procurement. We are hoping that we will gonna get the correct amount to complete the work once the current evaluation is concluded, to see how much is our winning bidder. But the engineer's estimate is already saying that we will have a shortfall from the 70 million and plus that is remaining. There will be a need, and that is the 112 that is estimated. But as I'm saying, the evaluation will look at that. And all these other new work and the future work that we currently are engaging technically is estimated at that. And again, until we go out to the market and appoint, that will also be concluded. But it is just given an indication of the risk that we want to manage and estimate, so that when we set aside budget for MTF periods, we are able to anticipate how much the money would be. And in terms of buckets at Makana, the issue was the department has led the eradication of buckets in formal, which is areas that are formal. But those that are informal, it's either they are currently located in sites that are not safe under power lines, specifically at Makana, and would need to be relocated, and other informal areas would need to be pronounced or formalized. And that is the process, driven by human settlements. When they pronounce those or formalize those informal areas, they then are called, they then formalize them by providing formal structures as well as associated in infrastructure. And the operation support that will go to Amatola, to Makana, as it was said by on the presentation, and the question is, what are we talking about currently? And I think the DM has said in his opening remarks that we haven't performed well in terms of, especially through the implementing agent as a water body, and that is secondary business. That means in developing infrastructure, and I think that is where Councillor was also saying we can do that. But in terms of primary roles that Amatola Water has, that is of operating bulk supply, they are doing very well in that space. And in a few years ago, they were at Makana as well, where we had the flooding and all of those other challenges, they were brought in and they stabilized that. And we are saying that that is the support. That means Makana will be then some technical people be seconded to stabilize the fixing of the pumping, because those are technical people who will look at the damage and be able to assist in a sustainable fixing of those, and that is what Amatola Water is offering. And I think that is the last response I have from my side.
Let's allow the executive manager of Amatola to say 1 or 2 words before the DTG and the chair of the board.
Thank you very much. Good day to the chairperson.
You can remove this thing on the screen so that they can see your faces.
Okay.
Thank you very much. The provincial head has covered most of the technical questions, but there was one in particular that I think that it's also good that I come in and further elaborate around the risk in terms of having a contractor that will end up being liquidated or pose a financial risk to the project entirely. This is something that also we have looked into because previously we were relying on the grades as they are provided for by CITB. For example, currently the contractor that we're procuring is a grade 8. It's a contractor that is supposed to be having the highest skill to complete the project. But one thing that we've learned from the one that we've terminated is that these contractors, as they are few, they take a number of projects across the province and even nationally. Then that causes a financial strain in terms of their cash flows and ending up frustrating individual clients' project. We have undertaken, based on our bid evaluation committee, that we should also incorporate an assessment where we deal with the financial risk of the project, because some of these contractors, they do not disclose that they are spread across the country. And that is something that is going to be part of our evaluation criteria, so that at least we get a contractor that will hit the ground running and be able to buy, specifically for this phase, DM, it's mechanical and electrical, the remaining bulk scope, and it has to do now with fabrication of material and also buying of equipment and importing. So we need a contractor that has the financial muscle, that won't be relying on session, as Mamlambo at the later stage of his presence in this project was relying mostly on sessions. So that is part of the risk management that we are now focusing on, to make sure that we get a contractor that will have the financial muscle. I think the increase of the scope provincial health is covered in terms of the 101 to 237, which was the main high ticket item, was the introduction of an additional 10 megawatt capacity from the refurbishment that was part of the phase 1. Thanks. Yeah.
Through you, Chair, will request the DTG and then the chair of the board.
Okay.
DTG matter.
Thank you, DM. The only issue I only want to clarify is when will these indicative dates between phase 3 that we presented. One of the comments I've made, Chair, is that we are of the view and commit as a department that by the end of November, we should have a comprehensive indicative dates, final dates, which will have integrated the whole procurement and the whole construction period once we have finalized the internal processes. It might come sooner than that, Chair, but the end of November is the latest date that we are committing to. The issue on the sewer treatment works, which was asked, that we seem to have not indicated much of it. I think we will, as a department, will also commit to look into that fully, because I think the issue of the wastewater treatment works should be a priority. We will engage with Amatola and the provincial head from the national office after the meeting to get more details and at least commit for much more feasible dates on that one issue. Those are the two issues that I felt left out. I think that later on the finances have been actually explained to, and the BEP on the budget eradication issue, we should be able to look into this outside the meeting and provide proper feedback on the matter. Thank you, DM.
Thank you. Through your chair, we will request the chair of our board, then I will come and make my last remark.
Okay.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable DM. And once again, good morning. Well, there's a couple of things that I just wanted to comment on from the board side. One is that as the Honorable Executive Mayor had indicated, as the board, we went and met the leadership, the political and administrative leadership of the municipality. And in that conversation, as the mayor had indicated that we had presented an acceleration plan that they felt that we needed to go and revise. Indeed, we went back and we looked at things much more closely, and we agreed on a number of things that we need to do. One is assistance to the municipality, which I think that has already happened with regard to tanks, water tanks, to alleviate the problem. I know, Chairperson, we're talking about James Kleynhans, but I think when we were looking at this issue, we're saying that the communities on the ground also we need to address some of the challenges which the mayor and her delegation at that meeting eloquently and passionately presented to us. So that was the first thing that we wanted to do, and those have been deployed. Then we also said, whilst we're still doing work, which I will come to just now, and then I think Ms. Makana has covered it, but I'll just make one or 2 points with regard to the finalization of the process of phase 2 of the project. We then said what could be done. There might be some work that requires or support that could be offered to the municipality with regard to the Howeson's port side. And we had requested that our officials go and engage the municipality and see how best can we assist. Starting obviously with an assessment, and I see there's a question in the chat box by Mr. Emner as to exactly what that support would look like. And I would like to say at this stage, we had instructed the officials to go and look at and engage the municipality just to see what can we do to assist. And part of that would then be an assessment, because we can't say we will do X, Y, Z if we're not sure exactly what the challenge is and what the need is. And that requires a conversation with the technical team in the municipality. And we are committed to do that. And then once that assessment has happened and the municipality is agreeable that they would welcome our support, would then look at how do we deploy that support, whether it's a unit that goes there or whatever we need to do. But those are some of the things that we need to resolve internally after engaging with the municipality, both at an administrative level and the political leadership. So that's with regard to the short-term assistance that we would want to put on the table. Then with regard to issues relating to phase 2, I think Ms. Makana has adequately covered the timelines. And the first engagement that we had with the political leadership, we were, and correctly so, I think we were looking at timeframes that were slightly longer than what they had said. They sent us back. And now, and then we went back and did further work, and we saw, because they, in fact, they were indicating that we had come there, which is what the mayor was saying about them being unhappy. We're saying that we're estimating that we'll finish to get the work, water available by August 2023. And then we're told in no uncertain terms by the political leadership that was not acceptable. In fact, they asked us to go and look at our whole procurement process and look at how we can accelerate. We've done that, and hence we've now, we have not been able to meet the date, but they are happy with what we've presented, that they wanted, which was about Easter. And then we said, realistically, we are looking at around about June 2023. In the as those first interventions that I mentioned, Honorable Chairperson, will also help to alleviate the challenge that we have, because whilst the construction work is carrying on, the other interventions would also be seen be useful to alleviate the challenge. Thirdly, with regard to the engagement of communities, I think it's a matter that we would like to engage the political leadership in terms of how best that can be done and how we communicate, led by the political leadership, both the DM can indicate how from national that can happen, but I think at the executive, at the municipality level, we would welcome the idea that we could go and join in when they give feedback to the communities, but that we will be guided by the leaders on the ground, because we wouldn't want to go and say things that might not be in line. So we'll take a guidance from the political leadership, but from our side, we were willing to just explain the technical elements, which is what our job is, whilst the community representatives or the political leadership takes the overall political responsibility and provide guidance in terms of how we do that. So those are the things from the board side, Chairperson, and I'll hand over to the DM. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair Mkwati and the honorable members. Just to, and the leadership of the district and also the local municipality. Just to confirm, Chair, that after we've done this presentation, there is an acknowledgement that we are in a deficit in terms of the performance over a period of time. And on the basis of that deficit, one of the challenges were with us in terms of the implementing agent, but also the municipality itself, because you as the leadership, we are quite aware that this municipality was having problems with respect to issues of governance and other challenges that were there. These issues, Chairperson, are being attended to. And in our case now, since we became a standalone ministry, we can confirm that the water board is in good hands. Even though it's an interim board, these issues are led by Ms. Pemiako and the team, and they are doing well. In other words, the issues of our own capacity, they are being addressed. We've discussed with the chairperson of the board that the plan and the breakdown schedule that Honorable Comrade Mpumza is raising, I fully agree with him. That timelines were on record is not acceptable. And we have directed them to do an acceleration. And we are very pleased the chairperson of the board is reporting that they had a discussion with the leadership of the municipality. What do we expect, Mqwat, is that immediately they finalize the procurement process this month. The contractors that are going to be appointed, they must produce an implementation plan. When they produce an implementation with a clear work breakdown schedule, taking into consideration that we will not agree on August 2023 to have water being available, they will have to actually to come earlier. And when all the parties will convene the meeting between us as a ministry, the province of Eastern Cape, especially Cooperative and the Office of the Premier, will also be in a position to ensure that we also bring the district municipality and the local municipality that is affected. When we've agreed on that particular plan, we'll then go and communicate with the citizens of Makana local municipality. We'll engage with communities, we'll engage with business and other organizations that are there, but we'll not engage them without a plan. We'll acknowledge as governments where there are missteps that have happened, but at the very same time, we'll be able to say, what are we going to do to correct these things? We'll be much clearer in doing that. While these timelines, there have been delays, as a ministry, we are insisting that this municipality and the district and the province, we must work together to ensure that these communities, in the meantime, are provided with water, because water is life. We will not be in a position to say citizens must wait. And then in this instance, the chairperson of the board has confirmed the municipality is being already supported in terms of the deployment of some of the tankering system on the ground, to ensure that we don't have problems of community don't having water. That's the second point that I thought we should be able to say, because members of parliament should not have an impression that in the meantime we're doing nothing. The other point that I want to raise is issues of capacity. The district has ambitions of becoming an implementing agent. Comrade Mayor, I can hear him there, even appealing on this platform. His message has been heard, Chair. But we must be able to say that to become an implementing agent, there are certain criteria that people must fulfill. We'll then engage with the district, but we are going to be deploying a technical team led by DDG Mat to check the capability of Makana local municipality as a water services authority. Because at a technical level, there have been challenges in the past, and we continue to have challenges today, including the district itself. Because as part of the district development model, we should be able to support them, but we'll have to do an assessment. On the basis of the assessment, we can agree with them and Cooperative, especially MISA, what kind of a support that we're going to provide. Because all of them, they have a responsibility to provide on the issues of water and sanitation services, especially members, when you speak about the sewer that is flowing there, very undesirable. And the team, the provincial head will send a team in the next few days just to do an assessment of that situation. And then together with these entities or municipalities affected, we'll discuss that. The issues around cost escalation, like Honorable Cesar, we are raising, escalation of cost. I've requested the chairperson of the board that probably the board must find time in as much as the contract with this contractor has been cancelled. But this is the same contractor that was doing phase 1 and doing phase 2. Even during phase 1, you could see that we lost a lot of time. We should be able to say, do we have a recourse as a state? Because if the contractors have lived up to their expectation and delivered on time, we will not have been caught up, one, on the question of escalation of costs. In the built industry, you know that the input costs like steel, like cement, like diesel and others, there's a lot of escalation. The more you waste time, the cost will escalate. That's how the industry works. You will always know that the present value and the future value. And every time you lose a day or two, we are suffering a lot. And we don't want to have a problem. At this stage, I'm very worried as a deputy minister responsible for water that we can't have this project becoming other projects that we started with 10 rands and ultimately finish with 100 rands, especially in a midst where there's a trust deficit between government on the basis of high levels of corruption and malfeasance and the people. We take that particular point, we'll look at that issue so that we know that government is not taken for a ride. But it's a point that I fully accept that we should be able to deal with that particular matter as we have raised. And it's a worrying matter. And DTG will look at these issues around how do we support now? Because the money has increased because of issues of time. But at the very same time, we must also note that the population has grown in that Makana. Remember, we've delayed this thing already by more than 6 to 7 years now. And if the population has grown, it's going to have a problem whether the current system will be able to handle these particular issues. But we will work together. I think the issues around procurement that people have run out of budget, the matter will have a discussion with the board. Because one of the biggest mistakes we make, there is nothing in law that says we must appoint a contractor with the lowest price when the lowest price is below the norm. Remember, there is a norm where the BOQs, when they are being set up, if someone is going to be actually costing more than 20% less than what the actual price, or higher than the actual price by more than 20%, you will see that this person will have no capacity to finish. Some of the contractors these days, because of the economic conditions, they don't mind reducing their prices in such a way that they become the lowest when it comes to price fact. And then they get the contract. But immediately they get the contract, then they claim to be they claim to be having no money. They want a variation order. We don't want to have a variation orders when people have deliberately tried to deceive the system by coming as the lowest, but they know that they can't finish the work. Therefore, that's why I'm saying that the board will find a time and space to look at this issue, whether deliberately this contract was not dishonest, and then they claim to have run out of funds. And it's a matter that we will look at even when we go forward. It doesn't mean that we should be able to appoint a contractor on the basis that it is the lowest, when we know that in our own engineering standards, these people will not be able to do that particular work. The other issues that I wanted to raise are around the entire water and sanitation system there. Because in fact, when we came here, we came to discuss that project of Kleynhans. But there are other water-related issues. We'll go in there as that technical team that will do a full assessment. What do we need to do? The last point, the Department of Water and Sanitation is not sitting with money, Chair. There are other priorities in other parts of the country. We will not be in a position alone, only to find Makana to be able to do what he's supposed to do. But this Kleynhans project, there is a commitment. We will have to have our own internal meeting with these municipalities, Chair. All of them, they must come to the party. There is an equitable share. That something must be disclosed and put on the table, how much money for water is there and sanitation, including money for operation and maintenance, because we will put this infrastructure, it will collapse after a few months when there is no capacity of warm bodies that are very capable, but also capacity of finances. Cooperative, we need to look at MIC so that we can be able to ensure that proper 50% of MIC for water and sanitation is ring-fenced. Then there's issue that the Human Settlement Development Grant, because it's a rural municipality, but there is a park services around water and sanitation, especially when SWA is running around them, including the province coming to the party, all declaring. And then us as a Department of Water and Sanitation, we will also do our own declaration, Comrade Chair, to say how much can we support further on RBIC and WISIC. We have an intention to support them, but they can't come with a cap in their hand, Comrade Chair, so that they too must actually contribute. I'm very happy because I also see our whip of the committee, Comrade Direko, Honorable Direko. She will help us when they are coordinating these issues, because the declaration of funds is one of the most important aspects so that we can make more impact in terms of building that bulk and regional infrastructure. With those words, Chair, at this stage, we are very thankful to you and the team, because you did the oversight, and through that oversight, we are nudging us to the right direction to complete this work that we should have completed more than 3 to 4 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable DM. I'm not sure, Honorable Teza, if your hand is an old hand or you want to say something. Honorable Teza?
No, Chair. Maybe they can finish and then we'll do the follow-up.
Okay. Can I allow you, Honorable Mayor?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Chair, let me start with Belmont, the wastewater treatment works. It's not true, Chair, that it has been decommissioned. Yes, there is a huge challenge of overcapacity in the plant, which you have seen when we visited the plant.
There's a problem with your sound. We can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Apologies. Am I audible now, Chair?
Yes, you are now.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Chair, and Honorable Leadership, Chair. I was saying, let me start with the issue of Belmont on the decommissioning of Belmont. That is not true, Chair. If it is, it has not yet been brought to our attention. Yes, there are challenges of overcapacity in that plant, which we have seen when you were here during your visit. It seriously needs an urgent upgrading, as the current capacity can no longer cater for it now. And it is resulting on overflow to the river that is nearby the plant, which I once took you to it. Chair, on the issue of buckets, yes, I think also responded to it that pit buckets have been eradicated in Makana. However, with the mushrooming of informal settlements, they keep coming back. And the upgrading of informal settlements program we hope that it will address the level of service within the informal settlements, because currently we are currently busy with the assessments, and then implementation is expected to be on the next financial year. On the 20th of November, Chair, the day before we met with the Amatola board, we had a meeting with stakeholders of Makana, which an update status on the James Kleynhans project was given on that. Also, as Usus Poshia also touched on it, I mean, no, chairperson of the board, Usus Pem, that we agreed that after the process plan has been finalized, then we will then has been concluded. We will then create a platform for community engagement. And the issue of water in Makana is a very critical issue. There is not even a single gathering that goes without a clarity or the issue of water being raised, and a clarity and the update is always given to those platforms. So yes, we are updating the community on what is happening. However, it hasn't been formalized up until the plan is concluded. Then we create that platform. Chair, for the meeting, we were guided by the committee on issues that are to be dealt with in this meeting, which are the issue of James Kleynhans and MISA, the CBD, the updates, the upgrading that happens in the CBD. So without ignoring other matters, but we're trying to stick to the business of today's meeting. I think, Chair, those are the issues that were on the side of the municipality, unless I'm missing something. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. I see Alan Zimwa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. There was comments from Honorable DeForce and also from the Honorable Executive Mayor and also from Honorable Treza. And I noted the comments from the leadership. The questions from Honorable Treza, I noted two. The first one, he asked if there is any breakdown of how the budget was spent, the 17 million rand. Indeed, Honorable Chair, we do have a breakdown. It's in our close-out report, which we can share with the committee, but also I will go further to say, Honorable Chair, you will see even in that close-out report that breakdown, it's in line with the bill of quantities, which was in our agreement with the contractor. The bill of quantities, I have it here with me. It's many pages. I can share, but there are many pages which are summarized into 13 line items. The biggest line item is the actual surfacing. That was the biggest cost, but we do have, Chair, I will be guided by yourself. We do have that breakdown. The second item was about the job opportunities. The honorable member asked if we know where those people are. To be very honest, Honorable Treza, they were employed, job opportunities were provided when the project completed. They are no longer a part of the project as we speak. We don't know where they are. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Treza, I was asking if it's an old hand or you want to follow up on something?
Yes, yes, Chairperson of the committee. Just one thing. The respondent to my question pertaining to the pit toilets around Makanda says that some of the issues that bar them from dealing with issues of eradication of toilets, of the bucket system, is the fact that they are not well placed in terms of where they are settled. Some are in low-lying areas under electric cables and so forth. And if I may ask very quickly, what is the difference between an informal settlements in urban areas and an informal settlement in rural areas, given the fact that both do not have proper water and sanitation? I'm from a rural area myself, and there is no proper toilet. There is no water from 2016 in some instances. And I'm asking this because we can't have a situation where we say that our people, many of our people, given Section 10 of the Constitution and underline legislation that protect the dignity of the citizens, say then that we don't act because they are there in those illegal areas, as it were. What is the action that is taken in collaboration with the line departments to actually correct that particular thing? Because in the process, most of the people that are affected are women and the elderly that should either go to the field or go into those areas where there is pit toilets, and I can speak about infections. I do not know if I qualify, but it's women and the elderly that are affected there. So I just need the action that is taken. And I'm saying that in terms of the height grade of informal settlements. In 2004, Chairperson, own targets were put already to upgrade the informal settlements. And I further say that in terms of bucket system, 2006, and where we are now is too far. And given the fact that we have delays within this project that have eaten on the delivery to the end users, which are the communities, what is the action that will be taken to correct the inability of municipalities, departments not to reach their own targets? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, DM and your team. I think the last question from Honorable Teza were more to say, we think as a committee we have achieved what we would have loved to achieve, drawing the attention of to Makana, where your preparation for the meeting and the visits to Makana, it does indicate that our message did go through. So the focus on service delivery, and in particular this time, we're focusing on this thing of water and sanitation, specific James Clay, there's a program have endorsed the program. You have also indicated that you'd want, after the appointment of the contractor, there must be an implementation plan, which implementation plan would help you to on the basis of that plan. In other words, as a committee, we know that we are doing oversight, And our intention is to draw your attention where we see gaps. And I think we have been answered to some extent, but the real answer would be the delivery of water to the people of Makana. And the real answer as well, because we have got a list of critical stakeholders here who have been talking to us as we were engaging, is when you engage them. In other words, as portfolio committee, you are not replacing government. Engage with them in the manner that the chairperson of the board indicated. Would appreciate that. And the last point would be value for money. We are happy that Scopa did go there. We are still going to engage them, but it doesn't stop the department from looking at whether there was value for money as indicated by yourself, DM. Continue with that good work. We're hoping that by the end of June next year, there will be no stories. In fact, when we are approaching June, that's when usually we have got this demand for water and everything in Makana because of that festival. And so hence we hope that this time will not have that experience. And in other words, this is to conclude the meeting and say for now we are happy. Yes, indeed, we didn't take everything from what's more urgent. We're still going to governance, which in the end might be a cause for all of these issues. So we'll follow up on that. And that then concludes the business of the day. If there's nobody will die, the meeting will be adjourned. And the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah,
Enkos.
Yeah, thank you.
Lungile, Chair.
Recording stopped.